we good to go? Okay, we in life. All right. So if you're just joining us, yesterday we're going through a document called Cracking the Code. And Cracking the Code is an old book. It came out a long time ago, like in around 2000 or something like that, maybe in the 1990s. I'm not really sure. But it is a book. You can get it on Amazon. And I would advise you to get it just to have it. Like I have it in my collection just for the simple fact that, it's like a classic. A lot of guys who came into this is how they came into this information. And let me see if I can pull it up on the screen for you so you can see it, because it is at Amazon. And you can see right here at Amazon, down here at Amazon, all right, Cracking the Code, So if you want to order that off of Amazon, I'll put the link in the chat for you so you won't have to, y'all won't have to look for it too tough. There it is right there. So it's a third edition. The simple truth about banking revealed. The economic effect of stealing and counterfeiting means wives must work for the family to survive. Correct the banking problem and wives will have the option to stop working while keeping the same standard of living. And it says this book is a sequel to Mr. Schaaf's first book. Volume 1 was designed. So I don't know if Tom Schaaf, are they saying Tom Schaaf was the author of this? Tom Schaaf got Banking 1 and 2. Banking 1 and 2, I have both of those, and those will be on SPC University in the PDF section. And if you're unaware, SPC University is back up, so you can go over there. We are now, while we were down, a couple of people's payments weren't recognized on the site, so just be patient. It's not a lot of people. So if you can't access the site, just give us time. You'll be able to access the site. It won't be long. So, but a lot of other people, majority of people still should be able to access the site. It's just a couple of people. Let's get the likes up. Let's get the likes to 100. Let's like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you join the email list that is right under here, because we do send out email blasts, because obviously this channel is shadow banned. It's shadow. I have 65,000 subscribers and my videos only get 5,000 views, so it's shadow banned. So I have to send out notifications to people to let them know that I'm live. All right, so peace to the gods, peace to the gods. All right, so this right here is, it's a good book to have. It's one of the originals. This, when I first came into it, this is, see right here, December 1st, 2001, when it came out. Yeah, that's about right. And that book had a big impact on a lot of people, this particular book right here. And so what we're doing is I'm taking you through this book. I'm taking you through the chapter. Like when I first was introduced to it, I didn't have the whole book. It was some guys in jail. They had photocopies of it, and all they had was chapter 10. Because chapter 10 is the most important chapter, because it shows you how to do the administrative process. It got all the paperwork. The chapters prior show you how to file a UCC1 and, and go through all of that. And there are a million different ways to do that. And then it gives you some backstory and things like that. But chapter 10 is the actual chapter that gets into, work. It's time to go to work. So we're starting with that right now because, I feel like enough people who have been following me on this channel, you're already pretty familiar with a lot of things that are being discussed in this particular space. So I don't think there is a need to necessarily, rehash a lot of information. A lot of you are here because, you're familiar with the information. You want to add to your storehouse of information, or hell, you're just here to see how much I fucking know. But whatever it is, you're going to enjoy it, and you're going to see I know a lot. All right? So, without further ado, we're going to get yesterday, we left off on the validation of debt package. We left off on the validation of debt package. Now, this is something, a practice that I have learned, but whenever I'm like discharging a debt, the steps that I take, anytime, whether it be a mortgage, a car, or anything like that, prior to discharging a debt, I always do a administrative process utilizing the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, especially if it is a third-party debt collector, because third-party debt collectors, they don't have any entitlement to collect a debt anyway. So I'm always going to establish whether or not they are the creditor. Now, some people will take that opportunity to utilize conditional acceptances. I don't really, conditional acceptances are okay, but you have to ask yourself the question, and this is what a lot of people who utilize conditional acceptances don't understand. The 14th Amendment says you cannot question the debt. The straw man is a 14th Amendment citizen. They put that in there for a reason, that the debt cannot be questioned. This is why they came up with this acceptance for value, so you don't look like you're an enemy of the state. You have unlimited credit. You have an exemption that is unlimited. So it really is not a big deal if you lend them some of your credit to settle the books. That is the theory behind all of this. Of course, not to argue about anything. Why would you argue? There isn't any money. They are debtors. You have unlimited credit. You can contract unlimited. Once you understand your power, you can see there's no need to argue with them other than getting into a situation where they try to act like they don't know what's going on. Everyone in the public should know that the public is bankrupt. Everyone in the public should know that the Federal Reserve is not a governmental entity. Everyone should know this. Everyone should be able to look at a Federal Reserve note and see that should say note on it. Everyone should know. Everyone, since people are looking at this right now, everyone should know what a gold certificate looks like. All right, this is a gold certificate. These are gold certificates. See this $20 bill right here? Get it out the way real quick. All right, you see this $20 bill over here in the corner? You put in gold certificate in Google, you'll see the Federal Reserve ain't listed nowhere on any of this money, because the Treasury Department is our bank, not the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve Act was signed into law, quote unquote, under really suspicious circumstances, because everybody who was adverse to the Federal Reserve Act mysteriously died on the Titanic. Everyone who was against it ended up dead on the Titanic. All right, so they signed this into law. And if you look at Woodrow Wilson, he said, I done gave the country over to a group of small independent bankers. You should really watch a video called All Wars Are Banking Wars. All wars are banking. They try to keep it off the internet. I don't know why. It's no cussing on it. It's nothing like that. It's just a scholar. He wrote a paper, and he's reading his paper he wrote. And they don't want it on YouTube. Really mysterious on that, because it was on YouTube for some years. Maybe it was just because it was on my channel. I don't know. Maybe it was because it's on my channel. But you should be able to look and understand what money is. Money is gold or silver or certificates that are redeemable in gold or silver. What happened in 1933 under HCR 192, which is codified in Title 31-5118, which is the rescission of the gold clause, meaning that you could not go to the Treasury Department and redeem your gold certificates for gold. It was really a gold heist is what it was. They stole all the gold from the American people. Paul Warburg is quoted, I read in one of his books, he was saying that the gold was wasting away in the pockets of the citizens. You don't know what to do with the gold. Gold is for sovereigns. That's what makes you sovereign. That's what keeps all your financial affairs private. That's what keeps us out of these databases and computers and all of that thing right there. That's money of exchange. That's when you get title to property. That's when you make an actual purchase. So that was the biggest thing that they did to change, to compromise our status as sovereign individuals, was taking away our money supply and then making us have to come to them. And the excuse was it was the Great Depression. Y'all were crying. You said you couldn't take care of yourself. You came to us. So we came up with a new deal. We offered you a deal. You work for us, give us 1/3 of your money, and we'll give you Social Security and government benefits, and we'll take care of your bum ass. And today, that is what is being proselytized by the Democratic Party, and they try to act like, well, we're not socialists. Social Security is socialist, it's communist. Everything, all the benefits and privileges that the government is offering you is socialism. This is a free country. You're supposed to be taking care of yourself and your family. All right? So that's a little backstory. Somebody say, are you in the image of God? Well, the word God is a German word. That word didn't exist until around 750 AD. The word there in Hebrew is Elohim, which is a plural, which is why it says, let us create man in our image and after our likeness. The word in Hebrew for God that's in Genesis 1:26 is the same word that is in Psalms 82:6, as well as John 10:34. So when you ask, am I in the image of God, didn't God say he blew his spirit into man and he became a living soul? So if you have the same spirit of God, you're in the image of God. It seems common sense that people don't understand that, but you have too many people, they want to worship. They want to grovel. They want to depend on things outside of themselves. They want to fight you when you tell them that they got power. That's the most ridiculous shit ever. You say, you got power, brother. That is blind. No, I don't. I need Jesus. And then you go read what Jesus was saying, and he's saying the same thing I'm saying, because you didn't read nothing Jesus was saying. So, I don't want to preach to you. We are going to get into this discussion. We're going to get into this discussion. All right. And let's continue from where we left off yesterday. So we're talking about a validation of debt package. And as I was saying earlier, a lot of times when I would do an administrative process, I would always start off with a validation of debt package. Now, in a validation of debt package, there's going to be a requirement that you verify the debt. And I'm going to show you some things that are very effective. I know the attorneys are looking. So if we go over here to spcuniversity.com and we go over here to the PDF download section, I think we have Tom Schaaf's The Banker's Secret Manual. That's the name of it. I hope I put it on there. This Bank Officer's Handbook is you definitely want to buy this. I get this. This is Tom Schaaf's 1 and 2. These are the two books I was talking about that are prior to Cracking the Code 3. That's what they were just saying. This is Tom Schaaf. Tom Schaaf was a CPA who audited banks. And they took their license. I actually got a chance to talk to these guys because they used to go in court and testify, because it's what you needed, an expert witness, and they took their CPA license for coming in and testifying, if I remember correctly. Don't quote me on that. So we're looking for the Banker's Secret Manual. Did I put it up here? Let's see. Did I put Banker's Secret Manual up here? If not, we just Google it. I'm going to have to add it. I'm always seeing a book that I'm like, why I don't have this on here, man? I be having everything on here. I got to add that Banker's Secret Manual on here, because that is a very, very powerful book. This is something that's good for everybody to study, but that Banker's Secret Manual, I don't have it on here. Banker's Jurisprudence. Somebody tried to destroy my website and remove all this stuff. I guess they got mad because I got this U.S. versus Lopez up here. But that's okay. We can Google it. If you just Google Banker's Secret Manual, And here's a copy of it on Scrib. Can I download it? Wait a minute, let me see if I can get a copy that's not on Scrib. I always put like .pdf after it. And you'll find something on there. Banker's Secret Manual. Here it is right here. All right. So this is the top secret banker's manual right here. All right. You want this document. Let me just put this in the chat so y'all can download it. Download this. All right. All right. So right there, Banker's Secret Manual, Top Secret Banker's Manual. This right here is an excellent book to study right here. This is, if you're into discharging debt or you have a third-party debt collector or anything, this is a powerful, powerful document for you to read. It has templates in here galore, and they're very powerful templates. And Tom Schaff, who is a CPA, he is very, very knowledgeable about the UCC and how the application of the UCC. So right here, strategy of notices. These are the notices that you're giving, suggested court admit. These like got paperwork that you put into court. So right here, here's a notice of adequate assurance and due performance. XYZ company, hereinafter the lender. Let's just look at some of this. Alleged credit card number. This debt is disputed. Before I pay, I want to know the details of what the entire agreement is and if you performed according to the agreement. Dear officers and or agents for the lender, it has come to the attention of the alleged borrower, after consulting with borrower's CPA and researching the United States Code, the corresponding Code of Federal Regulations, the Uniform Commercial Code, and certain Federal Reserve Bank publications, such as Modern Money Mechanics, put out by the Chicago Federal Reserve, as well as the Affidavit of Walker Todd. Those are good. Those are always good exhibits to have in any paperwork if you're going into court. That there is a reason to believe that the alleged lender is not the holder in due course of the borrower's promissory note and or have breached the agreement concerning the above referenced alleged loan or loan or credit. Now this gets into UCC 3-302. You have to understand what the holder in due course is and the difference between the holder and holder in due course and the notices that you have to provide in order to become a holder in due course. This gets into UCC 3-305 and UCC 3-306, which are claims and recoupment and claims to an instrument. These are very important. Now, that bank officer's handbook that I showed you earlier, when you study that chapter, you should study everything in there on holder in due course. If you want to be good with this stuff, I'm giving you information so you can be good, so y'all can stop walking around. Everybody ain't going to do it. 90% of the people listening ain't going to do it. I'm talking to you 10% who are, who going to be the standouts. So it goes on and says, since the borrower paid money in the form of a promissory note to the lender to perform according to a loan agreement, the borrower is now hereby requesting adequate assurance of due performance pursuant to UCC 2-609. Now, here's my question. If Federal Reserve notes are promissory notes, and at the closing table, I'm signing a promissory note, and we know, according to the United States Code, under the definition of financial institution, anybody involved in a closing is involved in some sort of banking. So I'm making some sort of deposit with the promissory note to some sort of financial institution at the closing table. Then did not pay for the house? Where is the money coming from that you're loaning me for the house? It's a very, very simple question. So this is what all this is. This is adequate assurance of due performance. Since the borrower paid money in the form of a promissory note to the lender to perform according to a loan agreement, the borrower is now hereby requesting adequate assurance of due performance pursuant to UCC 2-609 that the lender has performed according to the loan agreement and that the original lender used their own money to purchase the borrower's promissory note and did not accept the borrower's promissory note as money or like money to fund the check or similar instrument. Now we can get the FASB, the Financial Accounting Standards Board Statement 95, and read on page 21, and you can see very clearly that the bank creates money through its lending activities. This is FASB 95. So we can go right here. It's called FASB 95. And let me see if it's on here. This might be it right here. Where is it at? Man, they make it hard to download now. Statement of cash flows. Let's see if this is it. Nah, I don't want to register. It's taking me somewhere else. They don't want y'all to have that information. Well, we used to find all this stuff real easy, and now they make it just so difficult to pull up stuff. It's like ridiculous. What was it? Superseding standards. Download. Oh, man, I wanted to just read this to you. I got to go through all of this, man. Golly, what y'all doing? Accounting standard series. Let's see if this is it right here. Because all this is accounting. And wow, they just, man, I'm telling you, man, when I used to teach, I think these people be watching me because, man, I'll be showing people stuff and the next thing you know, it'll be like just disappearing shit off the internet. I'm like, what happened to it? Here it is right here. This is what it looked like. This statement of cash flows. But you'll always be able to find it because I download everything. But if you go to page 21, this right here is what you want to understand, financial institutions. And you get down here, this is talking about the exposure draft. So right here it says, they commented that the bank creates money through this lending activities. That, they said, makes the cash the product of the bank's earning activities, just as finished goods are the product of a manufacturer's earning activities. So these people can't come and tell you that there's some conspiracy theory or something like this. This is coming from GAAP, Generally Accepted Accounting Principles, and the Financial Accounting Standards Board. These people be tripping with the things they be saying. This is how you know that they ridiculous in the thing. This is how you know that they are devils, that they're liars. They have to provide the truth somewhere because they have to operate under, they have to, what is it called? Denial of, I can't think of the word right now, but they need some protection. So they put the truth out there. So you want to have this Financial Accounting Standard Board Statement 95. It'd be good to have modern money mechanics. Here's modern money mechanics right here. Let's look at this. You need these documents. Modern money mechanics. PDF. This right here, you need this because right here, this gets into a discussion about the value of Federal Reserve notes. So who creates money, how money is created, and also what is it, where do bank reserves come from? What are bank reserves? What is that? Where is it at? Where it talks about, yes, right here. What makes money valuable? In the United States, neither paper currency nor deposits have value as commodities. Intrinsically, a dollar bill is just a piece of paper. Deposits merely book entries. Coins do have some intrinsic value as metal, but generally far less than their face value. What then makes these instruments, checks, paper money, and coins, acceptable at face value in payment of all debts and for other monetary uses? Mainly, it is the confidence people have that they will be able to exchange such money for other financial assets for real goods and services whenever they choose to do so. So basically, it's your confidence. It's worthless piece of paper. It only has value because somebody will take it, because it's a negotiable instrument. That's what the word means, negotiable instrument, negotiate. You're negotiating something. And so when you hand me in to go, so people say, well, Yusef, will you take a promissory note to pay for my class? I'm like, fuck no, nigga, because I can't take it nowhere and use it. If I could take your promissory note that you made, and then you had crazy people like Patrick Devine. Oh, well, the guru, she made it. No, he shouldn't, nigga. We can't monetize instruments. He was saying crazy stuff. Why he died. I don't want to talk bad about the man, all right, because he did a lot of good things. But it were things like that he was saying that was crazy because he was in pursuit of this secret account. And they spend all their life chasing it, just like dudes be spending all their life, 20 years trying to monetize a negotiable instrument, trying to find that one person that will take it. to take a $200,000 or $300,000, $1 million negotiable instruments. It's stuff like this going on that a lot of you don't even know about. These are worthless pieces of paper. The only way they have value is because somebody will accept them. If you write me a promissory note, if I can't take it up to the grocery store and exchange it for goods and services, I don't want it. Everybody said, well, you taking Federal Reserve notes because somebody else will take them, fool. A lot of y'all get caught up because a lot of guys, because they can't make money, you hear them say things like, well, they really don't money no way. Man, you sound like a bum. What you talking about? Where's your girl at? Do you have a family you need to take care of? To sit here and pretend like you don't need Federal Reserve notes is idiotic. You need to come out of that. You are under a spell if you believe that. Until you can get to the point where you don't have to do that, like you got your own land, you're a sovereign, you're growing your own food, you're completely off the grid, then you can say something like that. But you're not at that. Most of you aren't at that point yet. So live in reality. Don't live in fantasy. A lot of people, they fantasizing. So let's get to this. So these are the documents you need. Banker's secret manual. Statement of cash flows. Why did I just do that banker's secret manual? Is this right here? Yeah. Right here, notice of adequate assurance. And what I want to show you is this is an affidavit. The reason I like this is because Tom Schaff, he understood that in law, all debts have to be sworn to. You also have to put in an affidavit attesting to the facts that you are presenting. So in his administrative process to the banks or credit card companies, he provides them an affidavit from himself, but he also took the liberty to create an affidavit for the bank president to sign. He said, okay, since you're saying I owe you some money, sign this affidavit. The undersigned affirmed being duly sworn on oath deposes and says that he or she is an officer of XYZ Bank that claims to hold the promissory note of I've been robbed in the original principal amount of $200,000, that he or she as an officer of XYZ Bank holding said note has the authority to execute this affidavit on behalf of the company and to bind the same to its provisions. The loan agreement has the following terms. And usually what I would do is I would look in my loan agreement and I would take the language directly out of my mortgage paperwork. XYZ Bank follows GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles, in which all banks are required, all federally insured banks are required to follow GAAP. That's very important. The intent of the loan agreement is that the party who funded the loan per bookkeeping entries is to be repaid money loaned. According to the bookkeeping entries, XYZ Bank used their money as adequate consideration to purchase the promissory note of I've been robbed. The promissory note was not used as value to give value to a check or similar instrument or checking account. I affirm and understand the terms and conditions of the loan agreement. This is what I was talking about yesterday, how they take your promissory note and they go negotiate it. They say, look, we just got this guy, he signed a mortgage for $300,000. He's going to make payments every month for $2,000. It's for 30 years. They take it to the market and say, hey, who wants to buy this from us? You can collect the money because wealthy people want cash flow. Wealthy people don't want lump sums of money. That's y'all dumbasses that want that. They understand as long as you owe me, I'll never be broke. Everybody wants cash flow. They don't want no lump sum of money. So they will purchase something like this. They're like, what? Somebody got to pay? Well, what's the rating on it? Is this pool of mortgages, are all these people like got 700 credit scores, 800 credit scores, 600 credit scores, or 400 credit scores? Because that's going to determine the risk and also the rate of return. The higher the risk, the more the return. But it's also a higher possibility that you're going to default. So they pool these mortgages. That's why they want your credit report. So then they take it to the market and they discount it. Give me $100,000 and you can have this $300,000 mortgage over the next 30 years. That's how they get their money. They selling paper. That's why they have a promissory note and a mortgage. The mortgage is the dead hand. The promissory note paid for the property, but they lock you in a contract. They lock you in a contract. And in that contract, when you read it, it says you already own it. They say that you promised that the property has been seized. Seized. Do you know what the word seized means? It means that you already own it. Comes from seizen. You already own it. The mortgage paperwork say you own it, and then you giving them some kind of that you're using it for collateral for a loan. You need to read your mortgage paperwork, man. And if you're an attorney on here, you know I'm telling the truth. I had an attorney look at me and like, man, how'd you know that? He said, they're not going to let you bring that argument into court, though. The court's not going to let you hear that. And that's when I recognized that they're not going to let you win. I did a lot of battle for 2 years in court on mortgages. They understand what's at stake by letting all the American people, if everybody in America didn't have a mortgage, do you know how free people would be? Do you know how free people would be? Do you think they want to? If everybody didn't have to pay for where they stay, they not letting that happen, and you're a goddamn fool if you think it's going to happen on a mass scale. I can't tell. I done been all the way down in the pit on mortgages. Yeah, that's that J.G. Wentworth. That's what J.G. Wentworth does. We will purchase your structured settlement. J.G. Wentworth. You just watch the commercial. That's what he doing, you know? And what they all doing. They got discount, like discount paper. If you can become a real estate investor and learn how to trade paper like that. You can do it yourself. I was thinking that when you do your mortgage, you put something in your mortgage to the effect, this just makes sense to me. It's like, I don't understand why people don't request this in their paperwork because the bank, they sell mortgages all the time to other banks. That's why you'll be collecting from Bank of America. Next thing you know, you got Chase or Wachovia or Wells Fargo or something like that. Well, why can't you put a clause in your contract? Well, give me first right of refusal. If you're going to discount my mortgage and sell it to somebody, sell it to me first. Why won't they do that? Why won't they sell the mortgage to you? If you got a $500,000 mortgage and you run it short on cash and you need an infusion of cash, so you take a bundle of mortgages and sell it, why don't you give the mortgage holders, the people who got the mortgage, why don't you give them first right of refusal? Why don't you say, well, look, shit, if you're going to sell, I got a $500,000 mortgage, but you should sit here and sell it for $300,000? Well, shit, let me buy it. They ain't going to do that. They ain't going to do that. They ain't going to do that. Why wouldn't they give you first right of refusal? Think about what I'm saying, y'all. You got to open up your mind. Y'all don't know the game. Trying to give you game. So, this is the affidavit for the bank, and this is the affidavit for you. The undersigned affiant, being duly sworn on oath, deposes and says that he or she understands that an exchange is not a loan. An exchange is not a loan. That's money of exchange. It's not a loan. When you use gold and silver, that's not exchange. That's what the affidavit of Walker Todd was saying, is when you give them a promissory note, there's an exchange going on. There's really nothing of value. They ain't giving you nothing of value. So it's an exchange going. These are money changers. These are the people that Jesus threw out of the temple. They are still here. They own the banking system. They've been running this game for 2,000 years or longer. The law merchants, 6,000 years. They've been running this hustle a long time. It's just been changing. They've just been modernizing it. That's why they're so good at it. Because they've been doing anything you do for a long time, you're going to be an expert at. You really need to watch The Men Who Built America. That, I think it was Time Life. They got a series, man, that shit was so fucking good, about Vanderbilt, Carnegie, Rockefeller, and J.P. Morgan. And in a section in there with J.P. Morgan, how he's teaching his son how to work the books. He's teaching his son from a very early age. And like he fuck up, how he punish him and everything. He can't go play. He can't do nothing. He got him sitting at a table. Fuck the school books. I'm going to show you how to work these bank records and this banking. Teaching them from a very early age. And you still see his name on banks today. He been going on how long. Go out to the what is that, Carnegie Center, or is it in California? I forgot, is it Carnegie? I don't think it's Carnegie, it's the other guy. But JP Morgan Chase, he's still around today. And Jamie Dimon, Jewish, is the president. Been president a long damn time of Chase. And I don't have no problem with Chase. I like Chase. You know, don't get mad at me, Chase, if you were listening to me. I have nothing against you. I just think that you the hardest goddamn credit card to get, that your policy for credit cards is ridiculous. But other than that, you know, I had one of my students get a Chase Sapphire Reserve. He probably listening right now. Need to let him come on and do a live stream. But right here, I'm not going to read this entire thing, but this is the book. This book got so much information. It got different letters that you can send these people. Notice a request for confirmation. Notice the principal is notice the agent. What is this? This is the credit card. Notice for request of confirmation. There's a lot of different things, you know. A lot of different letters that you can use. As to the credit card company, I think they got one to the mortgage company. This to a collection agency right here. Notice and demand. Notice and demand to cease and desist collection activities prior to validation of purported debt. You know, under 15 USC 1692G, you know, once they give a notice that you're challenging the debt, they got to cease all collection activities. And if they contact you, you can get like $1,000 per contact. It would be wise if you're in a situation to go to Play Store, or, you know, if you got an Apple, if you got that old whack ass Apple phone, you know, to whatever y'all got, download an app that lets you record everything. Y'all see how I just put a jab on y'all Apple users? Damn right, I'm an Android user. Have been, because Android is for the techs. That's for the techs. Y'all, the general public, using damn Apple phone. All right, let's get back. So we're going to do a validation of debt. Validation of debt. Yeah, Redemption Manual 4 and 4.5 and 5 is on SPC University too, man. I see somebody talking about the Redemption Manual. Like I was too, we doing Cracking the Code. This is one that started it. It's still some very good information. I don't understand, I don't understand what people talking about, because I still look at 3 as still the best one. For the reasons I'm showing you. That's why I'm reading through it. It teaches you a lot of stuff that I still use to this day. I still use a lot of stuff in this book to this day. It says, validation of debt package, respondent's private international administrative remedy. Now, let me say this. I don't title my paperwork the same thing that they do though. I brought it up because I'm advanced now. I understand the principles and what they're doing. So I rewrote a lot of stuff and modernized it to fit what I need. So right here it says, presentments demanding payment are the most common because the current financial system is expressly designed to generate defaults, foreclosures, and bankruptcies. And that is what it is. That's what you're battling against. It's just like the game of Monopoly. Civilization is because, they can restrict the money. It's showing how they bankrupt society. They make money plentiful. And then when they want to take people's property, they make money. They restrict the money supply, and that causes foreclosures. And they come in and get the title of all this property, turn around, makes loans on them, and then start making money plentiful again. It's a cycle. That's why you can't be concentrated on the money. All y'all tell me, I'm worried about, we gonna use electronic currency, Bitcoin, or, man, people got money, ain't thinking about that. People with money thinking about assets, man. You get your money out of there, you're in the slave position. You got to come to the master position. The masters want assets. A person with an asset don't give a damn what's going to happen with the money. When you have an asset like an apartment complex, I don't care what the slaves are worried about. Are we going to use Bitcoin? Are we going to have Miros? Is our Federal Reserve note going to depreciate in value? Is our money going to be backed by the petrodollar? That's what y'all thinking about. The person with the apartment complex has said, well, when you figure it out, make sure you pay your rent and whatever
you figure out. When you figure out what kind of money you're going to use, make sure you come and pay your rent with I don't care if your name is marbles. You got to come and trade apples or whatever. You going to pay your rent with that. See the difference in people who are concerned about assets versus people who are concerned about the currency?
I like that. Marcus Aurelius. I like the name. Marcus Aurelius was wise. I didn't like his sexual preferences. I'm reading his book, and then, all of a sudden he started talking about little boys like he talking about a woman, because that was just normal during that time. When you read his writings, I was reading one of his memoirs, but he's a very, very intelligent man. That's who was actually being depicted in the Gladiator movie. But he said, I studied under Tom Shaw back in 2003 on a phone conference calls. Got to know him very well, and although he doesn't teach us information anymore, his information is still the fundamentals, and it is. It is, and that's what I'm trying to show people today. A lot of people think, well, that's old information. No, it's not old information if it's following the principles. You can read a lot of old stuff and get more fire stuff than today. These people ain't writing fire stuff today. I'm reading their stuff. They not writing no fire paperwork today. You better go back and look at some of that old paperwork. A lot of these dudes writing garbage today. These are intelligent people. Tom Shaw, he had a very, very good knowledge of the UCC. But right here, civilization is on a conveyor belt to hell, courtesy of the instigator owners of the duplicitous banking system of America and Earth. Using government agents called attorneys at law, people are sitting ducks against the might of the state as concentrated in the judge-attorney brotherhood. There are a few Achilles heels, however, and respondents' private international administrative remedy demand, hereinafter administrative remedy demand exploits one of them. This is why you hear us talking about administrative process so much, because this is how you got the administrative process is used in everything. Let me tell you something. If a debt collector is calling you, that's why you tell them to stop calls and to write you, because we're going to do this through writing, because now I need to memorialize our interaction for court purposes, because I'm taking your ass to court. That's why you tell them to stop calling your phone. Here's an address you can contact me at. Send all correspondence here. But you need to write them and do that too, because they're going to act like they didn't hear you. So you write them a letter, said, on such and such a date you contacted me, this number is hereby requesting that you cease and desist all contact by phone. And from here on out, you send all correspondence to this address. And usually that address is going to be a P.O. box of your notary. And if you don't have a notary that can do an administrative process, go make one, nigga. What do you think I did? Y'all be crying about, well, I can't find nobody I can't find nobody that knows how to do this. Well, go make one. A girl I'm dating, I say, hey, baby, you want to be a notary? Maybe make some money. All these dummies here don't know they can just form their own notary, so I'm going to teach you how to be one, and you can charge them for being a notary for you. Like $30 to be a notary. I think it's like $60 in Georgia. Like in South Carolina, I think it was like $35 or something like that. It'd just be ridiculous. Probably the most expensive place is California. We're going to talk about California too, because they're a different animal. But I'm appreciating who was that send me some money? I appreciate the $10. Isaac L. Appreciate that, bruh. Okay. Loans of credit. Number one. Creditor lenders flourish only because of interest payments. And you hear them, like when you go to Rabbi Finkelstein, it does interest. The interest is the most important thing. Interest is haram in Islam. They don't charge interest. Christians didn't either. That's solely under the Jewish. That is a Jewish creation, charging interest. But they only allowed to do that to the goyim. They don't do that to each other. It's the goyim that they can charge interest to. And I can understand why, because, sometimes I say things and, as I study this, and what it is like, especially with today, if you look on the internet, how many people are just saying, fuck religion. I don't believe in none of that. That's man-made. They just tossing everything away. And most of the people who are tossing it away have never even studied the subject. One thing about the school of thought I was in, we were required to study all the religions. We couldn't call something bullshit if we hadn't studied it. But that's not how people today operate off of. They'll just call something bullshit and they never even studied the subject. Because somebody told them something or they read a few verses. It's crazy. But anyway, let's get back. So the interest, they got something called the Jewish Shitar. Let me talk about that real quick too. I don't need to put this on. It's called the Jewish Shitar. We want to read this because people get mad. What are you talking about? The Jews? It's Jewish Shitar, or the Jewish Star. This is where this came from, the Shitar. And this is a book right here you want to read. It's called The Full Effect of English Law and the Laws of Jews Becomes the Law of the Land. This is a document you got to read and understand. I think it's in here. Let me see if this is it right here too. I can find it right here. If I get it right here, I'm going to give you a link to it. Oh, wait, here's one right here. Man, I get this one. You had to read this. I actually wanted to do a webinar on this. The Shitar's effect on English law, the law of the Jews becomes the law of the land. This right here explains, the Jews have always been into banking. Okay, they've been the ones, with obviously with Rothschild, him sending out his sons, and they making central banks in all the countries. And he said, I care not, Mayor Amschel Rothschild, when he made the infamous statement, I care not who makes the laws, give me control of the money, and I care not who makes the laws. That turned out to be a very true statement. But this right here is required reading. It definitely is required reading, I think, to anybody who is interested in these subjects. I'll put the link in the chat because you need to understand the history of all this too. You got to understand the history of this. Let me read some of this. It says, rational study of law is still, to a large extent, a study of history. I believe that. Study of law is study of history. It is. They go hand in hand, man. You understand. That's why I say you understand admiralty, and you can understand how dumb these people are saying, well, admiralty is the law of the sea, because they ain't studied the history of it. They just did some brief reading into it. You read it, it's like, nah, that's not what this is. It's dealing with commerce. So English law, like the English language, is an amalgam of diverse cultural influences. The legal system may fairly be seen as a composite of discrete elements from disparate sources. After the conquest of 1066, the Normans imposed on the English an efficiently organized social system that crowded out many Anglo-Saxon traditions. The Jews, whom the Normans brought to England, in their turn contributed to the changing English society. The Jews brought a refined system of commercial law, their own form of commerce, and a system of rules to facilitate and govern it. These rules made their way into the developing structure of English law. And the reason why is because the Jews weren't allowed to own land. This is the reason I think banks today ain't allowed to own real estate, because they've been passing this practice down. Because under this feudal system, under Edward I, I think, because Edward I, they instituted also the thing called the statute merchant, where you could pledge your body as collateral for a debt. This was the start of the debtors' prisons. All right, so right here, they couldn't own land, but what they could do, they could make loans against land. And because the feudal system was land was important to keep in place power structures. It was vitally important. That's why they didn't let anybody just come in and get the land. And this is also how private trust came into power. So good. It started with the feudal system too. Private trust to convey property. Because if you got arrested, your property was already gotten. So what people would do is take the property out of their name because they wanted to pass it to their children. And they didn't own it. And the church did it too. The church talked about this vow of poverty. They don't own nothing because everything is in a trust. Yeah, they don't own anything, but they got access to everything. The church, one of the biggest people that understands own nothing but control everything. The Catholic Church. Because them and the king used to go at it, and the king was pissed off with the church about that. They took all their property and put it in a trust. They didn't own everything. The king hated trust. And then it found its way into the United States, first in Massachusetts. That's why they call it a Massachusetts Trust. Or unincorporated business organization is like the modern term. Okay. It's only three pages, but it's really interesting. They talk about the credit agreement. Several elements of historical Jewish legal practice have been integrated into the English legal system. Notably among these is the written credit agreement, the shatar, or star, as it appears in English documents. The basis of the shatar, or Jewish gauge, was a lien on all property, including realty, that has been traced as a source of the modern mortgage. Under Jewish law, the shatar permitted a creditor to proceed against all the goods and land of the defaulting debtor. Both movable and immovable property were subject to distraint. Distraint is a legal term. In contrast, the obligation of night service under Anglo-Saxon law barred a land transfer that would have imposed a new tenant, and therefore a different knight owing service upon the lord. The dominance of personal feudal loyalties equally forbade the attachment of land in satisfaction of a debt. Only the debtor's chattels could be seized. The rules kept feudal obligations intact, assuring that the lord would continue to be served as his own knights. When incorporated into English practice, the notion from Jewish law that debts could be recovered against a loan secured by all property, movable and immovable, was a weapon of socio-economic change that tore the fabric of feudal society and established the power of liquid wealth in the place of land holding. They the ones that destroyed feudalism, the Jews. Through banking. Not to say I have a problem with it, but, it's just a historical fact. We go and read it. So we need to get that too. You need to read that about this Jew, you need to read all this, the Jewish Shitar, the effects of English law on the laws to become the law of the land. You need to read the Statement of Financial Accounting Standards Board 95, page 21, and understand financial institutions and how money is created through lending. You need the Secret Banker's Manual. You need Modern Money Mechanics. Get you a copy of Cracking the Code off of Amazon. Good to have in your library. Not required, but it'd be good to have it. That shit then shot up to $454. People must be ordering it. Man, when I ordered it, I think I just paid $199 for it, I think just a couple of months ago. And this is used. Must be somebody who owns it. But it's hard to find a copy of that, but if you can. But, the PDF is available on SBC University. So let's get back to Cracking the Code. I'll give you that little short expose on the banking system. And all you got to do is look at who the nationality of the people who are still in control of the banking system. Look at everybody on the Federal Reserve Board. Look at all the Federal Reserve Board chairmen. They've all been Jews. The Secretary of the Treasury, majority of them been Jews. I mean, you start just seeing, you don't start paying attention. You're not paying attention. That's the problem. They're just white people to you, but you're not paying attention to what's going on. Who's in control of your monetary system? People get mad about that, but it's very obvious when you see it. I mean, it's nothing, it's like if you just do a cursory investigation into it, you can verify that. It's not nothing that's difficult to verify. I don't understand why people get upset by it. They get mad just because you say that. Y'all are in control of Hollywood. Y'all are in control of banking. Y'all are in control of all the media. So you got all the money under your control. You have the banking under your control. You have the Hollywood, all the movies under your control. You got the media under your control. I think only Rupert Murdoch, who owns Fox News, he's the only person who's not Jewish, but his mother is Jewish. He's the only one. Then you got BlackRock that owns 90% of all of the companies that are on the S&P 500 and being traded, and the CEO of that is Jewish. You got a rabbi that owns Pornhub. It's a Jewish guy who owns OnlyFans. It's a Jewish man who owns Google. It's a Jewish man that owns YouTube. It is a Jewish man that owns Facebook. It's a Jewish man that owns Clubhouse. It's a Jewish man that owns Instagram. Well, goddamn, ain't nobody. They own most of the NFL and NBA teams, and 70% of your billionaires are Jewish. And I'm not supposed to say nothing. And right now, 70% of your government offices are occupied by Jewish individuals. And y'all make up less than like 3% of the population or something like that, but I'm not supposed to say anything. And there's not supposed to be no plot or nothing like that going on when it is very obvious that you are taking steps to control the world, to implement everything under total power. And if we say anything about you, you silence it. I'm being shadow. Right now, any comment I make on YouTube is shadow banned because I said something like this in a comment. Now my comments, even though I can write it, nobody can see any comments I make on YouTube. And they shadow banning my account. My last video, because I made a little statement, they won't monetize that video because of that. These are the things that they do. They attack you with money. That's what they did with Kanye West. They attacked him with what? Money. Kyrie Irving, what they do? Attack him with what? Money. Give us $500,000 as an apology, nigga. You said that bullshit. It's gonna charge you $500,000. Matter of fact, Kanye, fuck it. You ain't a billionaire no more. We're going to bring you down to $100 million. You're getting a little beside yourself, nigga. Come on now. I'm not supposed. Harvey Weinstein, Jeffrey Epstein. Come on, man. What am I supposed to say? I'm just not supposed to say nothing. Now, I'm not talking to religious Jews because these are Zionists. So if you're a religious Jew, when I say Jew, I'm not talking about the religion of Judaism. I'm not talking to people who are religious who honor their religion. I'm not talking to you. You know who I'm talking to. I'm talking about Zionists. Even in your country, this distinction is going on that you're going against these Zionists. So you know what I'm talking about Zionists. It just so happens to be that all Zionists are Jewish and that the people who don't like what's going on are the ones that are not in power. Yeah, you may not like it, but you don't have no power. The people who are in power, who are trying to take over the world, majority of them are Jewish. So that is something that, you can't escape it's necessary to understand they're not taking anything. Let me just say this too, because I think like when I make certain statements, it seems like that I'm like saying that they're doing something illegal or criminal. They're not doing anything illegal or criminal. I'm not saying that. When I say that the Jews are in control, all I'm saying to my people is that you got to get on the ball because they do go to school and educate themselves. They all of them, most of them want to be attorneys. Majority of them want to be attorneys. They are industrious. They stick together and they do things, and you can't fault them for that. So they take the necessary steps to be in control, I guess is the point I'm making. So I'm not sitting here saying that they did something. Now, it makes it a lot easier to do that when, of course, you're in control of the money system. Y'all come up with an idea. All of a sudden, with my man who made Facebook, somebody else made Facebook, but Zuckerberg, he was able to blow it up. It was stuff that came up before that, MySpace and the dude who originally made it at Harvard University. But hey, they get that money behind them. They can make anything happen. That's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing. Y'all got the connections that if you do have an idea, then you got the money behind it to bring it into being. And that's kind of unfair. And you know that, like I deal with Bank of America, I got all my taxes filed, I got money in the bank, I got everything, and they will give me excuse after excuse why they couldn't give me a business loan by just asking for extra paperwork. They just keep you running around in circles. They don't deny you. They just keep you running around in circles until you just give up. And then that's when I said, oh, that's how y'all do it. And that's why you got to come up with your own funding mechanisms too. You got to say, fuck them. You can't get mad if you want to, you know, y'all right. Y'all supposed to help y'all people. Let me put something, but then they'll make a rule against you doing something and call it a Ponzi scheme, even though they involved in Ponzi schemes all the time. But they don't want you doing a sue or nothing like that to help your people out of a situation. They don't never want y'all coming together collectively and, pooling your money together. If so, now they want to come in and regulate it. They want to come bring the Securities and Exchange Commission in and regulate it. Whenever you attempt to just come together and pool your money together. It's a game, but they still have rules to it. You got to, if you follow the rules, it is a Federal Reserve notes. They got a right to do all of that. But, you know, if you learn the rules to the game, you can make shit happen. If you just long educate yourself, you know. So I'm saying that. I'm not saying that, oh, these people, you know, they corrupt and it's, you know, you choose to dumb yourself down. You choose to be apathetic about it. You choose to just droop your hands and like, what can I do? You know, that's on you, you know. So I can't say that, but you know, you gotta be aware of what's going on, and then you can take appropriate actions to help your people. You know, you come together collectively. You start having private industry. You build your own schools like they did. They got their own school. You think they teach the same curriculum in a Jewish school that they do in these public schools? They getting the real information in their school. They learning how to have good credit when they grow up. They learning God's laws. That's why they have a bat mitzvah and a bar mitzvah. They learning how banking works. They learning that from an early age. We teaching our children ridiculous stuff. How you gonna let your child graduate high school and she don't know nothing about credit? I don't even think about that. How can our children go from the 9th to the 12th grade and you never introduce them to the concept of credit when you should be preparing them for it by putting them as an authorized user on your credit and then let them be building their credit up. So by the time they graduate, they've been trained in the use of credit, and now you can pass them a good credit file and they can go out into the world and, you know, get a good head start. All right, let's get back. I don't want to digress too much. But we need to get that background story because this is what we're dealing with. The financial institution is controlled by one group of people. Make no mistakes about that. Make no mistakes about that. All the banking, the central banks and everything. So make no mistakes about who is in control of the money supply. The money supply is the key to everything. The money supply, what are they going to do with the money supply? They're controlling it what? They're going to make you get a chip. They're going to make, okay, well, if you don't do what we tell you to do, we'll turn off your chip. You can't go to the grocery store. You can't buy any gas. Everything, the money supply controls everything. They made sure of it. That's what they did. They made the money supply be in control of everything. Whereas when you were using gold and silver, that wasn't the case. You just go and they weren't involved in it. We just go to business between each other. If I want to buy a house from you, I just give you enough gold to buy the house. And then you out the deal and you go on about your business, I go on about mine. The bank and the government don't need to know nothing about this. Ain't they business? That's privacy. That's freedom. That's how the country was originally set up. But that required you, to be, self-sufficient. So let's read this again. Loans of credit. Credit lenders flourish only because of interest payments. The borrower is always the source of the principal amount of any alleged loan by virtue of his promise to pay. Promissory note credit application, which generates a negotiable instrument, namely money, per UCC 3-104, which the credit lender then converts into another form, a bank draft, cashier's check, in accordance with Federal Reserve lending practices, and reissues calling it a loan. And yet they just dealing with paper, man. Oh, here's a check. Here's a bill of exchange. Here's a bond. It's all paper. It's all paper, man. It's a paper game. It's accounting. It's money of account. This is strictly an accounting procedure. The bank loans nothing of substance. Indeed, it's forbidden to loan the bank's assets by banking regulations. This can be verified with any CPA. Credit lenders do not profit from the principal loan amount, only the interest. This is why on many loans and in all mortgage contracts, the borrower makes payments on interest charges only for the first many years. They want that money up front. They want that interest because something might happen and you be able to pay off the loan. So I notice over the years, more and more, it's like, damn, the first couple of years, that's why, man, I get a loan, I try to pay it off, like I fuck them up with the cars. I pay them off quick. I pay my automobiles all quick. If I got payments on it or something like that, I'm not letting that shit go long. Or discharge, if you're going to discharge it, do that. Don't let that shit go long, because the longer it go, how you defeat interest is by how fast you pay it off. You don't never pay anything that you're making payments on the amount that they telling you to pay. If you paying the amount they telling you to pay, it's going to take you forever. If you got a credit card and you owe $2,000 on it and say we only need $35 a month, it's going to take you 10 years to pay that shit off. You got to always pay more than what they're telling you. If they want $35 a month, you need to be paying $200. Something like that. You got to work that in your mind, you know. So yeah, double entry bookkeeping, that's correct. So let's go on. Credit lenders do not profit from the principal loan amount, only the interest. This is why on many loans and in all mortgage contracts, the borrower makes payments on interest charges only for the first many years. This is all gravy for the credit lenders. The principal amount never comes into play for the financial institution because that sum is always the property of the borrower and remains so till the end of the cycle, whether the so-called loan is ever paid off or not. Loans that end in default are simply charged off, namely discharged by bookkeeping entry, with no loss incurred by the bank. I remember one time I was at this bar. It was a real upscale bar, and this sister, you know, she was like a high banking official. I don't know if she was a VP or what. But, you know, I'm at the bar with her. We chopping it up. You know, I know what she want. She need a thug in her life, you know. I'm like, but I'm chopping it up, and I find out she a banking official. And we get to talking, and she kind of drunk too. She tipsy, and we get into it because, you know, as soon as I found out she worked for the bank, I just switched into attack mode. I'm like, this motherfucker. That's almost like me trying to date like a police officer or an attorney. Or so. It's just going to be difficult. It's just going to be difficult, you know, because back then, too, I was doing mortgages. I was heavy in the mortgage, fighting for mortgages. So when she said she was a bank officer and I started talking about this accounting and all of that, she put down her drink. She said, the bank don't never lose money. I said, yeah, that's why y'all have the biggest buildings in every city you go into, the bank buildings. She said, we don't never lose. And walked off. I guess she let me know. She let me have it. We don't never lose, nigga. What you crying about? So, right here, this is all gravy for the lenders. The principal amount never comes into play for the financial institution because the sum is always the property of the borrower and remains so to the end of the cycle, whether the so-called loan is ever paid off or not. Loans that end in default are simply charged off, namely discharged by bookkeeping entry with no loss incurred by the bank, which is the precise reason that these techniques delineated in this section are effective in nullifying loans of credit from banks. The bank has no valid risk in the loan transaction and therefore no valid claim. Banks, mortgage companies, and credit card companies lend only credit, from the Latin credere, believe, trust. That's what the word means, to believe something or trust. Credit lenders believe in you and trust that you will make all interest payments as you have been rightfully suckered into. The entire American financial system, engineered and developed into its current state over the last 2,000 years by the chosen masters, is an exercise in deceit and treachery of incomprehensible magnitude, predicated on the willful and wanton wholesale destruction of the life of one and all and the peace and dignity of mankind, based on the worship of money, wealth, mammon, and a psychotic impulse to subjugate and dominate the existence of all others. These are the people you're dealing with. And here's the thing about it. This is what you got to understand too. They think Goyim are stupid. And to a large degree, they right. That's why I be having a hard time being mad at them. Because I be like, damn, I'm trying to tell my people stuff. They ain't listening. They ain't concerned. They keep us distracted with bullshit. And it becomes most evident at the election time. The election time, and they're going to start, like right now, they bringing up because Trump, it looked like he finna get nominated. So now they talking about the Central Park 5 again, which, how many of y'all actually read the ad? I want you to read that ad that Trump took out for the Central Park 5 and ask yourself, is it really racist? If we're talking about punishment that should be meted out to individuals that do violent crime, someone did get killed. Now, it may not have been those 5 people, but whoever did it deserves some sort of punishment. And this is the kind of punishment they deserve. Because in biblical times, if you killed somebody, your life was taken. They still do it today. They just call it civil death. When you get a life sentence, that's like civil death. So, Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. Now, 15 U.S.C. 1692G, we need to be familiar with that. Let me see if I can pull that up real quick. 15 U.S.C. All right, 15 U.S.C. 1692G. Validation of debt. So right here, you can see this right here, B, is what disputed debts. So you need to, I don't know if it's your first time reading this, but if you're having a debt collector that is knocking at your door, this is what you need to know. Now I saw somebody earlier say that their car just got repossessed. If your car got repossessed, the fastest way to get it back is to file bankruptcy. You get an attorney to do it and tell the court that you need your car for work, and then they'll have to give your car back. But you got to do it within 10 days before they sell the car, because they're gonna sell the car. That's why they sell it so fast. When they get that car, they sell it quick. They try to get rid of it within 10 days. So you got 10 days to do that. That's why they put an automatic stay on everything, and you put out a B10 proof of claim form and bring them in there if you want to get your car back. And getting bankruptcies off your credit report is pretty easy, because the United States District Court does not report to the credit bureaus. And under the Fair Credit Reporting Act, if you challenge something, they have to provide you with who gave them the information. And if nobody gave them the information, they got to take it off. You got to learn how to use the system, man. I'm trying to give you some game. All right, I'm trying to give you some game. What about an adverse claim? You talking about a counterclaim, an adverse claim? Yeah, you making a claim. You can make a counterclaim. That's an adverse claim. It says, wow, rewind on your car. Man, you be going in distracted is a stronghold that the most used weapon. Yeah. It's what inspired me to begin learning the law. And when I met Yusef, it was lights out. All right, well, thank you. All right, so right here, this is the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. This is 15 U.S.C. 1692G. Now, I want you to understand there's a difference in the validation of a debt and verification of a debt. For a debt to be valid, it must be verified. Y'all say that. For a debt to be valid, it must be verified. If it's not verified, it's not valid. So, right down here in B, disputed debt. If a consumer notifies the debt collector in writing within the 30-day period described in subsection A of the debt, or any portion thereof is disputed, or that the consumer requests the name and address of the original creditor and debt collector, the debt collector shall cease collection of the debt or any disputed portion thereof until the debt collector obtains verification of the debt or a copy of the judgment. You need to understand what verification is, because they'll send you a copy of some bullshit. Or do they have a judgment from a court? And if they got that in their third-party debt collector, that's because you didn't answer. 70 to 80% of third-party debt collectors make their money because you stood silent and didn't say any goddamn thing. They sent you letters, you didn't say nothing. They took you to court, you didn't say nothing. They got a summary judgment, and then they got a judgment. Then they can enforce it. You have to stay in honor at all costs. You cannot, when somebody sends you something in the mail, you cannot ignore it. It's not going away. So, right here in Cracking the Code, 3rd edition, chapter 10, under the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, per this act is codified at 15 U.S.C. 1692 et sec. And as abundantly pointed out within the administrative remedy demand, a debt collector must, if requested, provide a verification. Look that word up. That's a word you look up. You see the definite, get a Black's Law Dictionary and see the definition with your eyes. See the definition with your eyes. So you'll know. That's how you locate the devils. Because when they send you some bullshit, you might say, look, man, it's not a verification of a debt, man. That's why Tom Schaaf have the affidavit in his document to give to them. Y'all saying, oh, you some money. Well, here's the affidavit. If you to see you and the person who you give the affidavit to is an officer that can bind the corporation, and that's usually the CEO, CFO, or somebody listed on the Secretary of State website. They passed that law to show who the officer of the corporation, because now they ain't putting out who owned the corporation almost on all the Secretary of State websites now. I understand why they passed that legislation. They're getting out of control. Everybody trying to hide. Everybody trying to escape liability, which is okay. I don't think it's okay in the public, but I think it's perfectly fine in the private. All right, so per this act is codified at 15 U.S.C. 1692G ex sec. As abundantly pointed out within the administrative remedy demand, a debt collector must, if requested, provide a verification of the alleged debt, namely validate the debt. Per the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, FDCPA, the debt collector is mandated to cease all collection activity until verification is provided, as we just read in the code section. So right here you see verification, validation. Verification is defined as confirmation of correctness, truth, or authenticity by affidavit, oath, or deposition. Affidavit of truth of a matter stated in an object of verification is to assure good faith in averments or statements of party. Black's Law Dictionary, 6th edition. Once again, I want to reiterate, this is why Tom Schaaf had in his book, The Banker's Secret Manual, an affidavit for the bank. He has to sign an affidavit, and the bank officer has to sign an affidavit. Because everything brought into court has to be attested to under penalty of perjury. Or it's going to be construed as hearsay. which hearsay is admissible unless it's objected to. Objection, Your Honor, hearsay. We need someone who can come in and attest to the veracity and validity of the contents of the documents that counsel is attempting to proffer in the evidence. And if the judge does not say sustained or overruled, you say, I take exception to the honorable judge's refusal to rule on my objection. Would you please enter sustained or overruled into the record so I can preserve the error? That's putting on notice I'm taking it to the appellate court. Because you letting hearsay evidence in over my objection, and I think the appellate court should review this because I think you out of order. All right. All right, so let's go. What this means is the debt collector must swear true, correct, and complete, equivalent of the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, namely testimony that verifies exchange of valuable consideration that allows him to demand repayment. As cited above, banks do not loan substance, only credit, air. Is there an attorney out there that wants to argue with me on this? I know y'all watching this, I know, but do you really want to go down that rabbit trail about what I'm talking about right now? This is something easily, you see all of the reference material I'm giving everybody. This is not bullshit reference. This is stuff, another document you have to get. Another document you got to get. Everybody has to get this. It's called the Affidavit of Walker Todd. Right here, you need this. Got to have this. This right here is required reading if you're trying to discharge debt or if you're going into court. Required. You should have study groups on this. When you learn the fundamentals, it just makes everything else go easy. I look at all these questions people ask me, and like my Facebook group got 25,000 members. You will not be permitted to enter the Facebook group if you don't answer all the questions. I just go through all the questions. See, they don't answer it. I just deny. And I'm going to let you into my group. You don't even take the time to answer some questions. You already don't have the qualities I want in here already. I don't want nobody like that in my group. So, right here, this right here is an excellent document. You need this too. Let me see if I can put it in the chat so you don't have to. There you go right there. Y'all click on that, download it. Download it yourself. Read that. Read it. All right. As cited above, banks do not loan substance, only credit air. No bank attorney and no banker can verify a loan of substance. Hence, they are foreclosed from issuing an affidavit of any relevance. That's why when the attorney writes you, he said, if you don't answer this within 30 days, it's going to be presumed that the debt is valid. Now, I heard an attorney say, there's no such thing as debt. There's only the presumption of debt. There's only a presumption. And until you properly rebut it, the presumption stands. And you can only rebut a presumption with facts. No bank attorney, and attorneys can't swear in. You got to catch these attorneys when they testifying too. Like really, like when an attorney comes into court and he don't have no witnesses there. I've done this before, and the judge said I could do it. Every time he opened his mouth, I said, objection, Your Honor, hearsay. Well, Your Honor, objection, Your Honor, hearsay. But Your Honor, objection, Your Honor, hearsay. But on objection, Your Honor, hearsay. I ain't let the motherfucker talk. Because it's like, how you come in here with documents that you don't have firsthand knowledge of, put them into evidence, and then attempt. Only thing you got firsthand knowledge of is that you were hired, you put an ad in the paper, and you mailed me a letter, and I either responded or didn't respond. That's the only thing you can attest to under penalty of perjury. And that's what they'll usually, the affidavit that is in their paperwork, that's usually what it contains. But they'll try to, but the unlearned person doesn't know all of this. So that's why a lot of times they don't even come to court they just come to court by themselves. Attorneys have to have somebody they can call to the witness stand. Where your witnesses. You don't have firsthand knowledge of any of this. So the system is fraudulent by nature. It is fraudulent by nature, but fraud is permissible under the UCC. You have to understand negotiable instruments to understand that. You'll hear people say fraud is permissible under the UCC, but we have to qualify that. It is fraudulent because it's like this, you're dealing with negotiable instruments. So if somebody, like a banker told me this one time, this guy worked at a bank. He said, like, some people used to come and, I have dudes y'all out there be popping them checks in the bank. Them bootleg checks, you know what I'm talking about. All right, some of y'all out there hustlers, you listen to me. A whole bunch of hustlers listen to me, so I know you know what I'm talking about with the white collar crime. But you're out there busting them checks in these different banks, and one of them came into his office, and he had his fake ID in the check, and he's sitting at the desk with him, and he's looking at it, and he said, I just jumped up, get out of here before I call the police. And he said the guy jumped out, he took his ID, ran out and left the check. And he said, I went to the bank window and contacted the Treasury Department and said that we have abandoned funds and can the bank keep them? He said it got a signature on it. See, as long as it got a signature on it and they don't have evidence that it was fraudulent, there's nothing on the face of it that will let you know that, they can negotiate it. That's what the holder in due course rules are. That's what they mean when they say fraud is permissible. All right, so right here, no bank attorney and no banker can verify a loan of substance. Hence, they are foreclosed from issuing an affidavit of any relevance. And they will issue one, but it's not relevant to anything. The system is fraudulent by nature. It cannot be made legitimate by a false affidavit. Fraud in the beginning is fraud in the ending. You can't turn fraud into something right. You can't turn it into something else. That's like a maxim too. This is why the IRS prosecutes for failure to file an income tax return. A sworn form 1040 is a validation of the debt. What are 1040 forms? They're affidavit. All the IRS forms are affidavits. I hope y'all know that. You attesting under penalty of perjury that everything you're saying is true. They ain't telling you how to fill out your paperwork. They do not. The IRS don't tell nobody how to file their taxes. And it's like this guy told me, he said, what's the difference between wealthy people and poor people? I said, what? He said, wealthy people know how to fill out paperwork. I was like, damn. I was looking for him to say something else. I was like, damn, that's true. But you go get you a tax preparer. Start studying that 1099 OID. Gotta get that document. What is it? Nature of the Remedy by Obi-Wan Kenobi. That's the name of the author. Nature of the Remedy by Obi-Wan Kenobi. That nigga I like him. He called himself a Jedi. Say, nigga, I'm a Jedi with this shit. Nigga, what? All right, so other avenues of attack. Okay, here's some other ways you can attack, as well as the impossibility of providing a bona fide verification of debt. Debt collectors are hit with other constraints besides the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. Now, let me just say this. They ain't gonna never send you an affidavit. They ain't gonna never send you the paperwork you asked for. They're gonna send you some bullshit. Copies of documents and things like that. I'm like, what is this shit? This is not what I'm asking for. This is why you got to know what a verification is, because they're going to try to play you. And they will play you all the way up to court. They crazy. This crazy. Well, let's take it into court. Let's see. Let's put this shit on the record. Let's see how crazy I am. That's what I do. I don't give a fuck what they say on the internet. When attorneys talking on the internet, and that don't bother me. What I'm on is, let's put it on the record and let's see if what I'm saying is crazy when we go to the record. So you can use the Privacy Act of 1974 as lawfully amended at 12 United States Code subsection 3401. B, Right to Financial Privacy Act of 1978 as lawfully amended and Title V United States Code subsection 552A, and Third Party Summons Act Special Procedures 26, Title 26 United States Code section 7609. That's the IRS code. Line up component documents with the administrative remedy demand. The package is a combination of documents of many avenues of attack, any one of which is sufficient to stop the entire proceeding. Internal. Now, this is what you're doing. You're presenting them with contracts because they're attempting to contract with you. So you're giving them a counter offer. You're presenting them with contracts, security agreements, and things like that. If you choose to continue this course of action, then you are agreeing that this is this is the course of action now I'm going to take. I've already showed you the facts of how what you're doing is fraudulent. You want to deny it. You want to waste my time. These are billable hours. These are billable hours. These are billable hours, just like what you got. How you want to get paid for your time, guess what? I do too. And my time is very valuable. It could be as much as $10,000 an hour for having to deal with this bullshit that you're taking me through. Just like you like to collect attorney fees, guess what? If I win, I want to collect some fees. I had to spend time writing all this shit up. I had to spend time listening to Yusef L. Ass on YouTube and figure this shit out. Somebody said, couldn't you send back a promissory note and within the contract? Well, that's in here. What you talking about? Couldn't you send back a promissory note and within the contract basically say something like, if you accept this note, the contract will be offset and the funds will be zero? Yeah, that's in this book. They got that. That's exactly what this process is right here. You're going to see it. Just stay tuned. It's going to get interesting. I'm just right. If you notice, I already got, I'm going to be on here at 6 o'clock every day. 6 o'clock. I already got I've already got programmed it into YouTube. I already got the artwork done for the thumbnails, everything. Just come here for 2 hours from 6 to 8, and we're going to sit down and just go through this thing. Because I want y'all to have an understanding of this. And of course, I'm going to bullshit and talk as we do it. I'm going to make it entertaining. But you're going to learn. We're going to go through all of it. So we're going to line up our component documents within the administrative remedy demand. The package is a combination of documents of many avenues of attack, any one of which is sufficient to stop the entire proceeding. A, now this is a document. Internal notice of written communication security agreement. Same notice by written communication used with demands for acceptance, except that, one, it is specially enclosed in its own box within the administrative remedy demand and therefore legally separate from the main document. And number two, secured party is the author, not the debtor trade name, as with the other documents. Recipient incurs a $500,000 unauthorized use fee for each and every subsequent use of the name after having been noticed enough encouragement to cease all further communication itself. And this is when you start billing them for using your name when they don't have permission. But you got to give them prior notice of this. This is why when you do the secured party process, there's a part in there where you give notice. This falls under UCC 1-202. You got to give people notices before you can put liens on them and charge them and things like that. You can't tell them, well, you can't use my name, but you've been allowing them to use your name for the last damn 20 years or how long you've been alive. and then go try to bill them for it. Got to give them an opportunity to do the right thing. You got to, in order to get equity, you must do equity. You got to operate in good faith and with clean hands. A gentleman always gives notice. The Privacy Act notice further restricts options for the debt collector. B, notice of tender of payment. This is UCC 3-603B. This is when you go in there. Notice of tender of payment gives official notice that payment has been tendered. See immediately below for the customization data. Sworn offer of performance. Tell debt collector that if debt collector can prove that the debt exists, this is, of course, a conditional acceptance, namely verify or validate the debt, debt collector may retain the accompanying payment submitted in the form of a certified promissory note, bona fide negotiable instrument per UCC 3-104, see 4D2 immediately below for customizing certain data within this document. And he's going to have a copy of a promissory note in here. It's actually a long form promissory note. Let me see if I skip down to it. You can see, like, when you get down here, you get down to, see, this is the security agreement right here. And then here's your green card. And that's the security agreement. This right here is something you get to record your registered mail in. You get this from a post office. It's real good to have. This is an affidavit of mailing. I still use this to this very day. This right here is respondent's private international remedy and demand. I don't title my documents this, but if you study this and understand what it is in here, then you can see how you can use the information or maybe modify it to your needs or modernize it or something like that. Respondent, this is a private international remedy demand. Where is it at? I'm looking for, this is you're requesting a recording to the clerk. And here's the promissory note, certified promissory note. This instrument is tendered by the undersigned respondent, blah, blah, blah. It said a true and correct copy of presentment is attached here too, made fully part hereof, and included herein by reference. This statement constitutes maker's promise for paying this instrument upon presentment and endorsement at maker's location. And you can see, you can read the verbiage on here. I'll read it later. But yeah, you get a promissory note. Here's the verification of tender of payment right here, which is an affidavit. It got two witnesses on it. Here's your verification. Everything has to be attested to. Here's a debt collector disclosure statement that you send to them, kind of like Tom Schaaf's affidavit that he requests, similar. Here's an invoice if they're using your name without permission to show you how to put together your invoice for invoicing them. And then it's the affidavit for court when you have to go into court. This is a very good affidavit, and I still use something similar to this today. There's some, I make changes. I actually merge a lot of different things from different affidavits I've learned over the years and incorporate my own. But this is a good affidavit. It's real Christian-based. It talks about God. And there's a certification of non-response. I usually use the certificate of non-response out of creditors and their bonds. And this document, which I made a video of on this channel, how to sign your signature without liability. If you want to just sit back and listen to me, I've already read this and made a video out of the entire thing, okay? And I did pronounce largesse incorrectly. It's pronounced, I think I said largesse. It's pronounced largesse. I know how to pronounce it. So don't become a user pronounce largesse incorrectly. Generous, giving, gift, or bounty. Okay. Somebody said, can we just freeze the secondary data furnishing company? That would be wise to do if you were trying to clean up your credit. Yes, it's very, anybody who cleans up credit knows about SageStream. I mean, I teach that on my credit course on my website about LexisNexis and SageStream and all that. I got some very advanced information on that. I got top-notch credit. I ain't bullshitting. I got top-notch credit. All right, so let's get back. So I just wanted to show y'all, some of the things you're going to be looking for, you got to look forward to. So we're going through the steps right now. This right here tell you how to handle phone calls too. We're going to go through that. That's real good, how to handle phone calls. All right, so we're right here. Damn, boy, it's a lot of stuff. Okay, yeah, we got to read all this though. This right here is important. This is what I like about this because it goes through, okay, yeah, we're right here. It goes through a lot of things that you got to get the foundation before you start messing with these documents. You need to read all of this stuff through. And then when you get to the documents, then you understand what that document is for. But somebody just hand you a document, you don't even know what the hell it's for. So, and then you look crazy when you go before them, and that's when they go make a video about you and then call you crazy. So once again, line up component documents within the administrative remedy demand. The package is a combination of documents and many avenues of attack, any one of which is sufficient to stop the entire proceeding. Internal notice by written communication / security agreement. Same notice by written communication used with demands for acceptance, except that number one, it is specially enclosed. Oh, I already read all this. No, it didn't. It is specially enclosed in its own box within the administrative remedy demand and therefore legally separate from the main document. He's talking about when you see that security agreement, you're going to notice it's a box around it, and it's following the principle that anything that is in a box is not there. So that's what he's talking about right there. It's like a legal principle. Number two, I haven't been able to find it though. If y'all find that, tell me. I haven't been able to find that, but that is something that goes around in the Patriot community. That's anything in a box in a document is not there, but I haven't been able to find that anywhere. That's something I haven't been able to verify. So number two, secured party is the author, not the debtor trade name. As with the other document, recipient incurs a $500,000 unauthorized use fee for each and every subsequent use of the name after having been noticed, enough encouragement to cease all further communication itself. And number three, private notice, a Privacy Act notice further restricts options for the debt collector. All right, so these are the tools you're going to be using. Also, you're going to bill them, and you're going to give them a notice and let them know every time you use my name, it's $500,000. Remember, you want to make the numbers high. But see, they're going to proceed against you because they don't think you really know how to collect or you don't really know what you're doing. That's why they proceed against you. Like, this fool don't know what he's doing. Let's take his ass in the court and take all his shit. Notice of tender of payment. Gives official notice that payment has been tendered, sworn oath of performance, tells debt collector that if debt collector can prove that the debt exists, namely verify, validate the debt collector may retain the accompanying payment submitted in the form of a certified promissory note. I read that. The certified promissory note fulfills the legal obligation of a negotiable instrument per UCC 3-104 and discharges any alleged debt. If said alleged debt is verified / validated, which it is not, this is merely a promise to pay and not a site draft, forged document, bogus instrument, etc. And that's why some people like to use promissory notes instead of, now when you use like a bill of exchange, that's why you do a secure party process because that's a third party negotiable instrument. It's three parties involved. And that's why the Treasury, the Secretary of Treasury, you send all of that to him because there is the drawee, and the payee. And that's not the same when you just have the maker and the acceptor with a promissory note. So promissory notes are good, you know. Where am I at? So, you know, they not into using bills of exchange in this document, which is okay. I don't have a problem with that. You know, you can't pay taxes with a promissory note, though. You can't discharge taxes with a promissory note. They don't accept them. So they should accept them, but, you know, if you read the IRS employee manual, it tells them to send it back to you. And if you send it back, they send it to the Criminal Investigation Division of the IRS, and they have them look at it. They tell you this right in their documents what they're going to do. So, where we at? Number one, if possible, use certificate paper to print up the note. You can get certificate paper at Office Depot. You can use that paper there and it can look very, very professional. One of the things you do is, what we used to say is, we want always our paperwork to look on the same level as theirs, because they're going to be negotiating this on the markets. So you at least want to make it look professional. You don't want to give them no bullshit. Make it look professional. Make it enticing enough that they, you know what, I'm going to fuck with you this time. I see, you know, I like how you did this. I'm going to fuck with you. Okay, we'll discharge this for you. Find debt collectors' internal data appearing on the presentment and plug these data into the note. Examples are alleged market code, alleged our file number, alleged FHA case, alleged loan number, etc. In other words, customize the promissory note and the other documents within this package that mention the same. And he's just talking about, you know, it's like it's a boilerplate document. It's fill in the blank, and you just want to fill in the blanks with your information. Sworn and witness verification of tender of payment. Proof of tender of payment. You know, you have to have an affidavit accompanying everything that you do. As always, you have to be using affidavits. You got to get good at writing affidavits if you're going to do this. It would be good for people to get a forms and pleadings book from your law library. Matthew Bender has very good ones. American Jurisprudence has them. Your state, they have their own kind. You go into a law library and that's going to teach you how to start making your own documents. By going into the law library and getting a forms and pleadings book, then you start getting good at drawing up your own court paperwork. But that's where you start. That's how you learn. You don't want to come in there with some bullshit. You want your paperwork to look just like their paperwork. My paperwork looks exactly like attorneys. Looks exactly like theirs. Sworn and witness verification of tender of payment. And no, I'm not doing no paperwork for nobody. Don't ask. I don't have time. I'm not doing no paperwork for nobody. Don't not ask me. Don't try to get no damn consultation with me and sneak it in. I'm telling you straight up, no, I don't have time to do paperwork. I've tried, I just don't have time. I'm too busy to sit back and devote some hours to doing one person's paperwork. Unfortunately, I'm too big for that now. I can't do it. I don't have time. I got too many other things going on that demand my attention. Debt collector's disclosure statement contains numerous law requests for information, all of which debt collector is obligated to provide, any one of which can invalidate debt collector's attempt to collect his bogus claim. Selecting the correct party to receive your written communication. So who are you going to send it to? Now, in some correspondence, it tells you to send your correspondence to. This gets into UCC 3-611, discharge by tender of an instrument. That's a very interesting part of the UCC. Right? I think that's right. Yeah, accord and satisfaction by use of an instrument. And they have a whole chapter in American Jurisprudence devoted to this. And I studied that. Understand what an accord and satisfaction is. And this right here gets into some very interesting verbiage. It says, if a person against whom a claim is asserted proves that, number one, the person in good faith tendered an instrument to the claimant as full satisfaction of the claim, you might even want to use that verbiage in there. And number two, the amount of the claim was unliquidated or subject to a bona fide dispute, which they all are. It's subject to all these claims are subject to a bona fide dispute because they're fraudulent. And number three, the claimant obtained payment of the instrument. The following subsections apply. If you sent them this product, you let them know. I usually use big font and bold it. This is for full satisfaction of this claim that is in here and disputed pursuant to, the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. This is why you use the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, your first step. Okay, and then you say, okay, well, I'm tendering you this instrument. And it tells you this, okay, it says, unless subsection C applies, the claim is discharged if the person against whom the claim is asserted proves that the instrument or an accompanying written communication contained a conspicuous statement to the effect that the instrument was tendered as full satisfaction of the claim. That's pretty clear. This is why we send things with certified or registered mail and use a notary and affidavit of the mailing, because you want witnesses to this. You want witnesses that you have conducted this in good faith and with clean hands. Who's attesting that you just took this action? Well, our notary and our Form 3811. The third Form 3811 is a witness that they received the correspondence, and the notary is a witness of what the correspondence contained. Is everybody getting this? Am I confusing anybody? No, this ain't selling no processes. This is fundamentals. All the processes out there that you see people trying to sell you, they're going to contain something like this in one way or another. I'm teaching you fundamental. I'm teaching you something, so from here, you go listen to anybody. Okay? So it goes on. Subject to subsection D, if a claim is not discharged under subsection B, if either the following applies. Number one, the claimant, if an organization proves that, number one, within a reasonable time before the tender, the claimant sent a conspicuous statement to the person against whom the claim is asserted that communications concerning disputed debts, including an instrument tendered as full satisfaction of a debt, are to be sent to a designated person, office, or place. And that's why we ask for a payoff, because they're going to tell you where to send it. See how when you read the instructions, when you say, well, why this didn't work? It didn't work, motherfucker, because you didn't read the instructions. You one of those people who like to play Monopoly and you just open the damn box top and just pull out the dice and pull out tokens and start rolling the shit and give money and start playing. I'm the kind of person that opens the box top and the first thing I reach for is the instructions. I'm going to read the rules to the game, and then I'm going to play the game. And you ain't even going to know that you need to get all the colors. I'm going to get all the colors. I'm going to put greenhouses on that bitch, and then I'm going to put hotels on there, and I'm going to break your motherfucking and laugh. Who used to win at Monopoly all the time? Tell the truth. Tell the truth. I did not like to lose at Monopoly when I was young. What do you do? Everybody, don't look this up. I want you to put this in the chat right now. What do you do in Monopoly if the bank runs out of money? If you run out of all that paper money in the game of Monopoly, what do the instructions tell you to do? What do the instructions tell you to do? What do the instructions tell you to do in Monopoly? This is how the real bankers do it too. What do the instructions tell you to do in Monopoly if the bank runs out of money? Exactly. It tell you to get some notebook paper and make some more. And that's exactly what the bank does. When they run out of money, they just go make some more. And everybody needs a token. Your token is your straw man. But see, y'all start with a token that's it's like a default token. You know, like when you open up Monopoly, you get the thumb, the wheelbarrow, the dog, the money bag, the top hat. You know, you're gonna choose one of those, the horse, the man and the horse. Well, those are your tokens. You need a token to play the game. Well, they give you the same thing, but the first token they give you is called an individual. But then you can get another token. You maybe want to get a company or a corporation or an estate or a partnership or a trust. There are other tokens that you can play the game with that are far superior than your individual token, because the individual is like a corporate soul. It has all the liability. So when you learn the game of commerce, we just playing a monopoly game. And you got people on this board playing this game, they pissed off. Oh, it ain't fair. You know, I'm like, nigga, read the instructions. Nigga, you mad because that's what my man Colonel Mandelhouse told Woodrow Wilson. He said the people who understand the system are gonna love it. The people who don't understand it are gonna hate it. He said that. That's why they redirect everybody's attention with public school toward topics that is some bullshit. They training you from all the way through college not to look nowhere over here. Don't even look over here, nigga. Look over there. Just keep looking over there. We need to control you know what? We need to control the educational system. When you go watch The Men Who Built America, let me tell you something. If I was one of the wealthiest people on the planet, I probably would join them niggas. I say, yeah, man, we need to take control. Especially after the government did that antitrust stuff and started fucking with them. They say, you know what? We just gonna take over the government. You don't know who you fucking with. We gonna take you over. That's what we gonna do. We just gonna tell you, you won't stay out of my business. Yeah, we monopolizing. That's where I think the game Monopoly came from. The railroads is Vanderbilt. The banks is J.P. Morgan. The oil wells is Rockefeller. The houses and everything is Carnegie. That's the game. They the man who built America, and they monopolized all those industries until they came in and broke them up. Standard Oil is now Exxon and Mobil. They still around. The Vanderbilt's the only one that went broke. I can't believe they lost all that money. Boy, that's improper estate planning. That's why trusts are so necessary. That's why spendthrift trusts are so necessary. You don't amass. Yes, a righteous man leaves an inheritance to his son, but a wise man puts it in a trust. A righteous man leaves an inheritance to his son, but a wise man puts it in a trust. Don't bite that. That's mine. Don't bite that. Don't bite that. All right, so right here, when you read these instructions, you can see, like, when you're discharging a debt, there's rules to discharging a debt. Like right here, it said, that's the first thing, it's not discharged. If they tell you to send it to a specific place. Let's look at number 2. The claimant, whether or not an organization proves that within 90 days after payment of the instrument, the claimant tendered repayment of the amount of the instrument to the person against whom the claim is asserted. This paragraph does not apply if the claimant is an organization that sent a statement of compliance with paragraph 1.1. All right, so right here, these are the 2 reasons, okay, that your debt might not get discharged. Even if you did everything right. It's rules to it. They say, okay, this is what they mean when they start trying to counter offer you, making another offer. It's a game. How can it not be a game if there's no money? Explain this to me. I want y'all to think for a second. Think. Monopoly is not real money. According to the modern money mechanics of the Federal Reserve notes is not real money. It's don't have no intrinsic value whatsoever. In a sense, it's no different than monopoly money. So if monopoly is a game, then how can the Federal Reserve not be a game? How can it not be a game? And how come they put their instructions, it's called the Federal Reserve Act, and then they put stuff like this, they put their instructions everywhere to play the game. How is it not a game? You're only mad because you don't know how to play the game. You don't know the rules to the game. That's why you're mad. Or you feel like you shouldn't have to play the game. You don't have to play the game. Then get your ass off the board. That's what's called taking yourself off the grid. You can't complain about Monopoly and your ass have a token and you on the board, motherfucker. Somebody says it's a game for suckers. No, it's not. Tell a wealthy person they're a sucker.
Tell a person that can do what they want, when they want, how they want, whenever they want, a sucker. How he a sucker? He's not a sucker. Money, let me tell you what money really is. Money ain't even gold or silver. It's not. Listen. Money is not Federal Reserve notes. Money is not gold certificates or silver certificates. Money ain't Bitcoin. Money ain't money of account. Money ain't gold or silver. Money is energy. You better start understanding that. See, the people who can attract wealth to themselves, it doesn't matter what type of monetary system they use. They're going to always have the wealth. And the people who don't know how to attract wealth will always be the poor. This is what makes communism and socialism ridiculous, because it doesn't adhere to any natural law principles. That's why I can look at Karl Marx writing and see that he's a fucking idiot. Or a demon that's trying to put some sort of philosophy on people that is doomed to fail. That's why socialism has never worked. There's no record of it ever working. Because it can't, because it goes against natural law. Under natural law, it's called the law of attraction. You can't go against that. Broke is temporary. Poor is forever. Whatever your mind state is. As above, so below. Above is the mind. Below is the physical. If you're broke physically, you're broke mentally. That's why one of the pillars of Marxism is the elimination of religion, because they don't want you to understand what I just said. Because they know it goes counteract. They know that Marxism and communism is counter to religion. So they got to get rid of religion. They got to get rid of, they got to keep you, they got to isolate you in darkness and absolute ignorance. That's what that is designed to do. It is designed, that political system is designed to entrap you in absolute darkness and ignorance. That's the only way you can keep a slave. You got to have him in a position where, first of all, he doesn't know he's a slave. That's the most ideal one. Man, they sophisticated in what they're doing. But when you really understand natural law principles, it's not that sophisticated to me, because I understand how natural laws work. So, but you can see they know what the natural laws are too. That's why they're trying to isolate you from them. They understand what's needed to get wealth. It's not all these things that people talk about. It's not knowing anybody in particular. It's having a definite chief aim. It's ask and you shall receive. If you tell this mountain to be cast into the sea, but do not doubt it in your heart, but believe the things that you say with your mouth, the thing that you ask for will be done. Nothing shall be impossible for you. That's what Jesus says 2 times in Mark and Matthew. He says it twice. The power of the tongue, speaking things into existence. That's the power you possess. That's the power all people have possessed. It's just that some people don't have constructive thought and other people have disparate thoughts. Like right now, there's people listening to me, wish I would keep on reading Cracking the Code, even though I'm telling them something that is 100 times more powerful than what I'm reading with Cracking the Code. But they don't want to hear that. Those are the individuals that are going to continuously fail. They're failures. They're mortals, because I'm giving God information and they don't believe you can be a God. That's why they don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear that. They don't believe you can be no God. What you mean I'm a God? There's only one God, Yusef. They keep saying that to me, even though in their book that they claim they believe in, it says otherwise. It says, look, the man has become as one of us. If you were a man and become something else, you ain't a man no more. Especially if they're saying one of us. And that us is the word Elohim, which you call God, but which is plural. And in Psalms 82:6 and in John 10:34, Jesus even reiterates it. But you still will look for verses to try to counteract it. Because you can't, it's not in you. And that's because you ain't a God. You're not. You are the mortal. Gods need worshipers. They do. That's why I don't mess with, that's why I don't like mess with, what's her name? That girl, what's the name of the girl that Kanye West married? What's her name? Her name Kanye West married. Her sister, her sister got an Instagram following. She probably got about 200 million followers. And then I go over her channel and like I kind of watch what she doing. And, she in the closet, picking out hats and shoes and shit. And there's 200,000 people watching her. How can you not say she's not a goddess? Explain that to me. How can you say, that's why they call her a star, like the stars that fell from the sky? How can you say that she's not a goddess if she got 200 million people that will tune in to watch her pick out some goddamn shoes? But you want to say there is no God, so there's only one God. Yeah, Kim Kardashian, them Kardashian girls. All right, let's get back, man. I don't want to digress too much. Let me get back to cracking the code. All right, so we were just reading through all of that stuff, and I think I came to the end. Yeah, I came to the end today, man. That's it for today. We're going to tune in again tomorrow at the same time. And we're just going to keep going through this document. We're just going to keep going through it, getting an understanding of some things. You think I kicked a lot of information today? How was this today? Let me do a review real quick. How was this today? Thumbs up? Y'all give me a thumbs up? Let me see, where we at? Huh? We got a thumbs up. Appreciate the knowledge. Okay, yeah. Give me, I appreciate the donations. Just get the likes up. You can like, comment, and subscribe. But it say Yusef, peace to the gods. Douglasville, DVC kidnapped my daughter. With the SPC process, prevent her removal, or in the case has already started, have her return. I mean, when that's real touchy. Those cases like that, because you said they kidnapped him, that's an allegation. But I can't, the thing I would do is you definitely want to do that process. But at the same time, the first thing that needs to be demonstrated is the welfare of the child. So why don't you try to put together an affidavit attesting to offering evidence along with people who can attest as witnesses that your child hasn't been, abused in any kind of way, because those people do got a job to do, and they do it sometimes. So I can't just say, hey, they kidnapped your child. They do kidnap children. They do. I've had people close to me who have had their children taken, and the people call me and ask me to attest to something, and in the back of my mind, I'll be thinking, man, I really don't feel like he treats his children in a certain kind of way. I do think he slightly abuses his children, in a certain kind of way. But because I'm cool with that person, I'm going to say, nah, he's a good person, because I want him to get his child back, And the children hate his ass and everything like that. So you got to, well, I'm not saying this is you, but I'm just saying, a person in my position, to properly answer that question, I have to put the child's welfare first. And I got to make sure that you can demonstrate that the welfare of that child is okay. Because that's the issue, the welfare of the child. And so put together a package that can demonstrate that. And then if they won't release the child, then you start taking action on their ass. But definitely everything is commerce. Everything is commerce. Everything is commercial. Do you know who Barry Soetoro is? Yeah, that's Barack Obama. You can read the Mars Jump Room. I know Barry Soetoro is. It's Barack Obama. That's another name. That's Barack Obama's real name, allegedly. And he was selected to be president. And he's been to Mars. You talking about the Mars? Y'all get on YouTube and put in the Mars jump room. And my aunts and uncles went to school with him at Capilano High School in Hawaii. Okay, yeah. Barry Soetoro is Barack Obama. I've been knowing about that for about 7 years. Let's see. Appreciate that. I appreciate that. We are what we think. That is correct. We speak and create our atmosphere as well as our environment. We are what we think. The lost and found. Peace to the gods. What would you advise someone to do that is expecting a child when it comes to registration? I don't have a problem with the birth certificate. I don't see a problem with the birth certificate. I see a problem with Social Security number. I would just tell you don't get a Social Security number. That's just me. Social Security number is what locks you into the welfare system. Like, for instance, I was arrested one time when I was a minor. I think I was like 12 or 13 years old. And the people called my mother. And I think about it, I'm like, I didn't have a Social Security number. See, I didn't get my Social Security number till I turned 18. It was time for me to get a job. That's when I went down and applied for my number. So they was arresting me. They didn't have no way to put me in the system, so they called my mother. It just makes me wonder. I'm not saying that's the case, but I just wonder about that. I'm like, they called my mom. Now, I'm going to tell you the truth. When that was the first time I ever got arrested. And when dude said he was calling my mama, I was hoping that nigga would put me in a cell. I was like, God. I said, man, put me in a cell, bro. Don't call my mom. That was more terrifying than getting arrested when this nigga said he gonna call my mom. And then my mama, man, she was so cold with it too. She was cold with it. She was like, she said, it was like during the school week, like on a Wednesday or Thursday. She said, okay, I'm gonna whoop your ass on the weekend when I got time. So it was like Wednesday that happened. So when Saturday rolled around, she came out. I was sitting on the car outside. She came out real calm, said, you ready for your ass whooping now? And she gave me probably one of the worst ass whoopings in my life. My mom was cold with it, man. My mother was straight from the hood, man. She didn't play. She wasn't one of those type of women that was, she didn't coddle me at all. She just knew, hey, you a man. It seemed like her objective was, number one, make sure I didn't turn out gay, make sure I didn't come out gay, and make sure I was responsible. I could take care of myself. I could clean up after myself. I get out of high school. That's how she looked at it. She said, nigga, you ain't gay. You ain't gonna be, I ain't raising no gay nigga. You gonna be, don't let these women get, all that emotional shit with women. She wasn't studying none of that. You're like, nigga, nah, man. You a man. All that stuff. So, she made me one thing my mother made me, that I give my mother a lot of credit, she made me self-sufficient. She ain't doing what these mothers today are doing. She made me self-sufficient, and the dudes in my neighborhood made me into a man, whooping my ass, fighting, teaching me, nigga, you graduate, you got to get an apartment, you got to learn how to pay your bills, you got to get a job, you got to make your own bread, things like that, Yeah, I don't think y'all got that no more. But, I was growing up, it was a neighborhood. A neighborhood was like a family, everybody in the neighborhood. So it didn't matter if nobody didn't have a brother or something like that. You had brothers. And a lot of guys were older than you. You seen dudes fight, how they fight. Like dudes go toe-to-toe. I'd be a toe-to-toe fight. Niggas still be cool after they have a toe-to-toe fight. It's respect, you know what I'm saying? You have to go through all of that. It's like, being a man in the neighborhood, ain't no protection. You can't run to mama. You gonna run to your mama after you get your ass whooped. You ain't finna do that. That shit's not happening. You gonna take that ass whooping, or you gonna dispense one, or you gonna issue one. You gonna issue one. It's gonna be one or the other. She be a servant if she don't matter how many people following you. It just demonstrates that people will follow any and everything, and ain't no goddess. Well, that's your opinion. That's your opinion. You can feel however you however you feel about it, but 200 million people disagree with you. And if you want to call 200 million people, who probably a lot of them are more intelligent than you and some other things, if you want to say she evil and a serpent, I don't look at things like that. I don't believe in good and evil. Good and evil comes from man. As it says in Isaiah, he say, I make good and I make evil. Everything comes from one source. There's not two powers in the universe. There's only one. And the sooner you understand that, the better, because that is a part of the law of attraction too, and understanding that there's only one power in the universe, not two. Satan don't have no power over you. Satan is a deceiver. Satan is a liar, but Satan don't have no power. He's just an angel. He's a cherubim. He's from the Naran Samoon, the smokeless fire. No, I don't want to bow down to man. He's lesser than me. He's a thing of clay. And then what did Allah say? I know what you know not. You got to read the Quran to get the full story that what happened in heaven with the angels. To really get the full story, the Quran offered very good insight on what went down with Iblis, the rebellious one. You know, come on now. So, I see we got some people to understand what I'm talking about. Oh yeah, my mother was a strong woman. She was a strong woman. And she sacrificed a lot for her children. She really did. Okay, where am I at? Satan is never an angel. You talking about Satan wasn't an angel. You see people just come in and start saying crazy shit. Satan wasn't no angel. All right, y'all, look. I got to go. I love doing this. That's why I'm going to try to come on every day and kick it to you. I got me a little new space. The space I'm in now, too, I like broadcasting in the space I'm in. I got I got a nice big table to operate off of and a lot of other stuff. So I'm liking this, I'm feeling good about it. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure that you get on my email list. It's right. The link is right here. I just click it and an email thing is going to pop up on your screen. Get on the list so we can notify you when things like this occur. And peace to the gods. I'll see y'all tomorrow. I'm out.